Good evening and welcome to the Granite Falls School District Board meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will excuse Director Carey. He's going to be a little bit late tonight. He's attending school board business at the Snohomish School Board meeting. And Director Kincaid, Director Ledoux, Director Dane. For a moment there, I almost forgot your name, but then I remembered it. The horror, it's on my eyes.
It's only a problem when I forget it.
And Dr. Middleton, and then
Danny or Danica.
Danica
Mace.
Mace. Thank you. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
Thank you all for being here. Let's see. So are we really all ready? 2A board comments. Who would like to go first?
Really don't have anything. I apologize for missing the last meeting. Unfortunately, respiratory virus had me down for a while, so.
Welcome back.
Falling back.
Yeah.
Extremely excited or happy to partake in the kindergarten roundup. That was yesterday. It's always fun. You see both sides of the spectrum when you go to those. You see the excitement from the kids and the terror from the parents, right? Nobody wants to see their little baby go off to school for the first time. But they're so excited to get in and meet friends and everything. And we got to be the fun table because we had cookies. So always good to, go in and answer some questions, meet with the community. So you see quite a few, returning families, obviously, as they have littlers coming in after the older kids come through, and then lots of new faces as well. So great opportunity there.
Well, thanks for attending.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for attending. I was really sad to miss it yesterday. It was the first kindergarten roundup I've missed in like 5 years, I think. I went to like all of them. So I was sad to miss that, but I just wanted to shout out to staff teachers for staff appreciation, teacher appreciation. That just thank you to everyone for the hard work that they put in every day.
Thank you. I did not prepare my comments tonight because I wasn't certain I was going to be here, but then I realized that tomorrow will be 6 months exactly from my medical event that's had me on leave of absence for, I can't believe 6 months, but I've been back to work for almost 2 weeks now. So I decided I should probably get back to work, right? And give it a try. So I appreciate you guys picking up the slack for much longer than I ever anticipated. And certainly all the thank yous to Carl for being the vice president, the president, and on the WASDA Ledge Committee elected position. That's name I can't remember, but I know that he does so much, and thank you to him and to you for whatever work that you put in with Snohomish School District and some other things. So thank you, Dr. Middleton, and to the cabinet that is here and those that are at home. Just thank you for that, because it's a lot. There's still another 6-7 months of stuff, but here we are.
You're back.
Thank you. I'm trying it. I'm doing the thing, but I do, and I guess, you know what, why don't I just put it out there for the record? I do have trouble remembering names. I know you. I remember stories you've told me, stories about students, stories about your kids. I remember those things, but for some reason, names just go away. When I just looked at Director Dane, I could tell you that he worked for the fire department. I knew him. He was part of the people that served me so well, yet I know him, but I just for a moment couldn't remember his name. So that's just one of the things. Anyway, so thank you for the well wishes over the last 6 months, and let's see if we can keep going.
Is there anything from Danica?
Yes,
Yeah, so we have
thank you for reminding me.
prom on May 4th, and then we're starting our state testing next Monday. And spring sports are wrapping up, and the high school's hosting the track and field district championship. And then both baseball and softball have opportunities to make it postseason. But
Awesome.
yeah, going on.
And hosting district championships in our
Yeah.
shiny new stadium.
Yeah.
Love that. Good news. All right. All right, good. Next. Thank you. Next is Crossroads Open Doors Report presented by Bridget McVeigh.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay. Okay. This is the Crossroads High School Board presentation. We snuck a few slides in for open doors as well, but they're very minimal. So if you have other questions about the program or want to come and see the program, because it is very different from Crossroads, then just let me know or I'm gonna visit. All right. Okay, so open doors, this is just the monthly count for open doors, so it just kind of shows the growth from January to April, so we're moving along and getting more students every month, it seems like. And I'm gonna right? Yeah. Okay, so open door students are counted differently than any other students in the district. They're counted through earning what's called IAPs, that are indicators of academic progress. And there's a list of approved IAPs through OSPI that we can use. And so I just kind of wanted to explain a little bit of that. So they have to earn an IAP once every 3 months in order to be counted. And then there's all these other rules, like they have to check in with their case manager once a week. They have to have a certain amount of face-to-face time, but the IAPs are the thing we try to focus on the most. So over the last 3 months, we had 55 IAPs earned. And like some examples of IAPs could be that they passed, that they did pass their GED in a certain subject, or they see a certain amount of work hours. We have the majority of the students in open doors either work full-time or are parents or have pretty severe mental health stuff going on. So those are kind of the 3 types of students that are served. And open doors is dropout re-engagement. So students must be between 65 and 75% behind in credits in order to come into an open doors program. And it's a formula, and it's for students ages 16 to 21. So the research on open doors programs, it shows that students who just transfer from another school, like let's say a student was 75% behind from Granite High School or even Crossroads High School, they don't do near as well as students who have dropped out and made the decision to come back and either earn their GED or their diploma. So that's just, and I believe we have 13 GEDs so far this year. We have 11 students who have not been able to pass math. And we have set up, so we have math tutoring every day in the open doors and flexible learning programs. Betsy Nelson is tutoring the kids, like just working with kids in math, try and recover the things they missed. The GED used to be like, honestly, like an 8th grade, like set at about an 8th grade level. It's not anymore. It's high school and college level. If they earn certain scores on the GED, they automatically get some credit at the college. So it's pretty cool. And it goes through algebra too. So that's the math on it. So anyways, so that's open doors. Now we're gonna move on to Crossroads. Okay, so the demographics at Crossroads right now, we have 210 students, 133 of them are from Granite, 69 from Lake, and 8 are on choice transfers or from out of district. These are the grade levels broken down. So you'll see here that we have, this is the bubble, right? Because this is 86 seniors, so this is sort of the COVID bubble, and what we're seeing in alternative programs across the state is they should start, our numbers may start going down because we aren't serving as many students that were impacted by COVID. So we have our flexible learning option program, you know, that we were just sort of creating that, and then within that, we created a reentry program for kids who have been kicked out or had behavioral issues and don't qualify for open doors. We're trying to re-engage them, so we're doing all these crazy, awesome, amazing things to do that. So 48, there's 11 students in reentry, but 48 altogether that are being served with flexible learning options. That means they're doing some of their work at home and some of it here. They have to be 50%. They have to be less than 50% online in order to be in that program. Okay. So demographics. So this is the state, and then average state alternative programs we looked at there are 19 programs that are similar to us in numbers, like have a similar number of students. So that's what we compared ourselves to. I mean, so that's what you guys are gonna see right now. So students with disabilities, the state average is 14.8%. Average state alternative programs is 23.2, and Crossroads is 22.1, so we're slightly below state average in serving students with disabilities. And I think a lot of that has to do with Mr. Farley has many years of special education experience, and he does the screening for students with disabilities to come. So we try really hard. We try to not discriminate but to serve students who, you know, we can serve through their IEPs. Okay, homeless. So the state average is 3%, average state alternative schools is 7.75%. Crossroads this is the October count from OSPI. We were at 26.8%. We are now at 46.7%. It's the highest homeless population we've ever had in our school. So, and we had some issues with the, I mean, I'm not sure all the students who should have been counted as homeless were counted the previous year, and so we had this dip, and yeah, and then it came back up, it came up higher than I ever expected. So, all right. Okay. Academic performance. All right, so the science scores, the average, the state average, it was 42.9. 7.7 for alternative school programs and 26.8 for Crossroads. And then for ELA, you can see that so our goal for this year's school improvement goal was to be at the state average for all of our academic areas. Just would love for you guys to take note. The average state was 27.8, and we were 46.7. And state average for all schools was 50. We're almost there. I think we have some really great ELA teachers, and I think and students are working really hard. They're testing right now, and we may get there, you guys. We may get there.
That's good.
So pretty awesome. All right. Okay, so here this shows the growth in ELA and the growth and the science growth. I don't know. One of them's I'm not sure honestly, you guys, because the last slide said 28 and this one said 36. So I'm gonna have to double check what our actual score is in OSPI. That it's a discrepancy that I didn't notice until just now. And I don't know why that's there. I'm sorry. But, okay. This is our MAPS growth so far this year. This is my one.
Can be.
Okay. This is another celebration, and I think this really shows the work of our teachers. So this is shows the growth in reading, growth in language, and growth in math. So we have had in all areas, as indicated by our test scores. Pretty exciting. Okay. And grad rate. In 2022, we were at 41.7. We're now at 50. We have only dipped with our grad rate one one year we did, and it was COVID. I think so many schools were graduating students, like passing students who got 15% or whatever in their courses. And so we dipped a little bit that year, but other than that, since we started, we have just had steady growth every year. It's pretty exciting. Okay. Academic performance challenge. So this is math. So state average 39%. State average for alternative programs is 10 or 7%, which is it's a bummer. We're working hard. You know, our math classes are very big, as many of our students. So when we used to have the dropout committee and we did lots of research on our area, the number one indicator that we saw for dropout was sixth grade math scores. So these kids start very young, having an aversion to math, and getting them engaged again is very difficult. We're working on it. Our math teachers are working hard. Okay, celebration. This is super exciting. So this is the first year that we had our students do the second language testing participation. We kept hearing it's really hard. I'm not sure your kids are going to be able to do it, and you know these things. So we're like, we're gonna try it, and we had 10 students earn 20 credits in for their language testing, which is, I mean, we have a couple of students who weren't even close to graduation, and this is gonna put them like they're in the running now to graduate. It's pretty exciting. ASVAB, we had 46 students take the ASVAB, 17 passed, and we've never had more than 5 students pass the ASVAB. So I feel like their academic rigor and their concern for their own academics, our students, it's getting better. They're persevering. Forefront and sources of strength. So we have a Dr. M got us into our district into the suicide prevention grant. I think maybe the first year he was here. And we've been working on that, and we have students participating in sources of strength. So we've done trainings on forefront. All the teachers have been trained. Actually, all of our staff has been trained. And then we did a community training. And now we're working with the Judd Foundation, and what they are doing is really looking at our policies for suicide prevention, mental health, really kind of culture and climate. I mean, in a way, school culture and climate. So we had a survey, all the staff were surveyed, all the students were surveyed. And they're putting the results together right now. So what happens with this team is they're looking at all these things. It's a little bit like accreditation, but it's not focused on academics. It's focused on mental health, and climate and culture and that sort of thing. So what they will do is put all of this data together and then make recommendations for us on how we can improve. It's a little intimidating, but I think it's what's right for our students. So our clubs are music, FFA, FBLA, Service Club, and Voices of Youth. We actually have 5 students right now at the state that haven't made it to the state FBLA conference, and the high school has 5 students that made it. So 10 students all together, both advisors are Crossroads teachers. It's pretty awesome. And we just received a grant that is FFA and CASE, the CASE Tractors, CASE Foundation. So Lori Carlson and I wrote it over spring break, and we got $45,000, which is awesome because it doesn't have the same parameters that like OSPI grants have. So one of the things that's been our dream is getting power out to the greenhouse out there and water out there. And the grants that I've written, we haven't been able to like hire outside people to help us do that. And this is going to allow that. So it'll be power, water, chicken coop, and a flow hive.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, okay, so 23, 24. So these are some of our, this is another celebration for our CTE expansion. These are all the classes that we're doing, and these are some of the ones we're adding. The two things that so the home healthcare aid students will be able to leave here with a certification. We're working with DSHS to be able to offer that class, and so they'll be able to be a in-home caregiver or a caregiver in the hospital or when they finish that class and pass the test. And they'll end up with all sorts of certifications. And then the other thing I'm extremely excited about, honestly, is the partnership with Snow Isle for our, I'm not sure if it's gonna be kindergarten or early childhood at this point, but we're doing a partnership with Snow Isle. Students will be able to earn 15 college credits. They'll earn their stars, which is like a certification to be able to be a preschool teacher type of thing. First aid, CPR, stars, 15 college credits, and they take the parapro test as part of the class. And so I'm just ecstatic about that. One of the kids are super excited about that. What the board can do further. So facilities for CTE, it's really, I mean, you guys heard this, right, or whatever, but it is tough because ALE does not get CTE funding. So right now we've been using our OSSI grants for the CTE funding and it's working, but with this, it's tough with facility stuff because there's all these parameters, right? So, but that is what I've been using for really everything for CTE. And so anyways, but it's just an ongoing challenge, and it's one of the things that every year they try and legislate for it. So far, we haven't gotten much movement, so. Audacious ask, so I've added to this since I sent this to you guys. So a full-time mental health counselor, so our forefront, we have to track our number of suicide risk assessments, safety plans, outside referrals, so those are hospital referrals. So this was the first 4 months of the school year, we did 23 risk assessments, 16 safety plans, and 14 referrals to the hospital where students were hospitalized. And that's all, it's a lot. So full-time mental health counselor, but the other thing I have added is TOSA or someone to help with now, but because I am concerned about how to deal with things when we have things go, mental health breakdowns happening and those sorts of things so regularly. So trying to help me figure out sort of how we can appropriately serve the students with the staffing that we're given. And full-time mental health counselor, of course, and I'll continue to look for grants over and over to make that happen, but even if we got the grant, I'm not sure we can find a person, so, and that, because that's been a staffing issue all over our counties. So, questions?
Thank you. Board, do you have questions?
I have a few, unless you have.
I just wanted to know if you could tell us how many students are on track to graduate this year.
34 are for sure there. We have potential of up to 50. So 86 seniors does not mean 86 graduates.
Right.
So
And does that include the open doors?
that, 35. We just received the waiver information at the end of last week for this year. So there, we have one other student who. Well, I haven't figured out really how to create some sort of celebration for GEs. We did one last year and I think it went pretty well. Maybe we can try and do that again. So that's a big deal as well. So, and we're also working on the partnership with ECC for an open doors program through them, which will look different than the open doors program we have right now. It'll be more for kids who really want to do community college track. Yeah.
Quick question on the IAPs. so 55 were earned. It looks like there's currently 57 students in there. I was just curious as far as what that looks like per student. Are students capable of earning more than one IAP per quarter? Okay, so it's not like 55 students got IAPs. It was, okay.
It's the students who are on fire, like, I mean,
Right.
but
How many could a student hypothetically get within a quarter? What's a reasonable amount, like 2 or 3, 3 or 4?
within a quarter,
Yeah, within a 3-month period that
I
they're,
mean, technically, they could probably get 7 or 8.
oh,
To
okay,
be honest.
Okay.
Because if you look at it with our flexible learning option, we have classes built,
Mhm.
but then it's not. Open Doors really is supposed to be tailored to the student, and so, and the classes that and that's part of why, that's part of the flexible learning option, like the. It's not near as tailored to the kid, individualized to the student as Open Doors. Open
Okay.
Doors.
Okay, and do we have like goals in mind of like, ideally, we would love to see a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1 ratio of IAPs to students in Open Doors per quarter, or?
We don't have, we should have quarterly goals.
Okay.
We honestly, with 424, we know that Open Doors is not gonna be as much of a diploma. It's not really gonna be a diploma program, right? It's gonna be more of a GED plus program.
Okay.
So they don't just get their GEDs and then they're gone.
Yeah.
They earn their GEDs and then they can keep moving towards a high school diploma,
Okay,
or they can stay connected, like the case manager can help them get connected to, we have lots of kids who go into the union after they.
yeah,
So the case manager can help them get into the union and do all those.
okay, perfect. And then, so the homeless demo that you showed, being at least a quarter, you were saying that might be even underrepresented. Maybe we're looking at like a third of students are.
I don't know if the 46, I was actually shocked that we were at 46%, so I don't know if that's I mean, it's always underrepresented.
Oh, I thought the number was
The
26.
26
Yeah.
in October was
Okay,
underrepresented, now we're at 46.8%.
Okay.
So that number was under.
and my question was, are there programs or something that the community and or the board can be aware of, where donations, something like that, on a page somewhere that we should be aware of, where we can go help get the right resources, or even just some resources, additional resources, just to help lighten the load for those individuals?
So I would probably suggest the coalition, they are the Granite Coast Community Coalition, they're extreme, like we're like this with them. And I mean, we've had to, because the shelters have been so full this year, like we've had to be creative with,
Okay,
with housing for students, like we now have a partnership with the owner of the marijuana place because they have apartments up above.
Okay.
And they give them to us for just break, and Cocoon House. We
okay,
hook them with Cocoon House, so yes, we
Okay.
have there are resources, but they're drying up, and so
Yeah.
we are being creative and we have partnerships with lots. We have,
okay,
I think we have 2 or 3 kids at Cocoon House right now, so those kids would be considered homeless because they're in a shelter.
mhm, okay. No, that's very helpful. And then, the SBA results, at least to just really quick with the data that you showed, it looks like the SBA results were lower than what we're actually seeing in the classroom, right? In terms of like math, it looked like math was higher, at least I believe, than what the SBA, because the SBA results were about 7 or 8% of students are at that level. Do you feel like that's just a function of the testing environment versus a classroom environment? Like what would you attribute that to?
Well, it's a different group of students because we were looking at last year's
Okay.
data versus this year's data.
Okay,
So really, when we'll know a lot more when we see this year's results, and we will see them, soon, because we have students they're all testing right now.
okay. And then just other things, just as a side note, like I'd be happy, I'd offer this, obviously Crossroads is here right now, I'd offer this to the high school as well too, because I know when you're trying to go out into the quote unquote real world, right? There's such fear, uncertainty, and doubt around, I have to know exactly what I want to do. I can't speak for the rest of the board, but myself, I had a very unique path to where I am now, right? I mean, I went to a community college, I went to a university, I wanted to be an architect, then I went to geology, I got a master's in geology, and now I'm in tech, right? So it's just like all over the place. And I think people commonly get, especially high school students, they feel like if I want to be a doctor, I have to be a doctor, and that's where I'm going to go. If I want to, go into a union, like that's just my path now forward for the rest of my life. And there's this misconception that it takes too much time to go do something, or it takes too much time to change your path, or too much work, effort, this, that, the other. So I would be more than happy. I don't have anything put in place right now, but I would be more than happy to like put together some sort of a discussion, something, at least for like juniors or seniors or something that are getting ready to get outside of these walls and help lessen the fear that has to go into that. So be happy to work with you on that.
That would be awesome. Bill came in and kind of told his story and his path, and the kids respond really, really well to that.
Yeah.
They loved it.
Yeah.
So I think it would be great.
Yeah, everybody has their own path, and I think you see what's published, and it's all these crazy success stories that I don't think actually represent a real life experience. Like, most people don't know what they're going to do by the age of 16, 17. And it changes a lot. And so just providing that comfort and knowledge of here's how you can alter your path if you so choose to. So happy to do that. Yeah, that's it for me.
I just had a silly question and then a comment. When you're, excuse me, talking about your celebrations and you're talking about the ASVAB, I realize I don't know what that test is. So I was wondering if you could explain what that test
It's
is.
the test to go into the military.
Oh, okay.
And it's also a graduation pathway.
Okay.
So over 90% of the Crossroads students are using the CTE pathway to graduate.
Okay.
So a few of them, like we have a couple that are doing ASVAB. Because they're testing, the testing is very minimal. Very few students pass them out. The high school has over 40 students using the CTE pathway. And then I think they did the ASVAB as well, so they have some using that. But it has to be connected to their high school and beyond plan, so that in order to use the ASVAB, they have to have the desire to go into the military. In order to use CTE pathway, they need to declare the area they want.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Then the one thing that I just wanted to comment on is that you should absolutely be celebrating your ELA scores and your science scores. It's awesome. It's awesome. Like, absolutely celebrate that, because that is really awesome to see. And yeah, we got to work on math, but also just be proud of what you guys have accomplished. It's awesome.
Yeah, huge ditto. I was gonna start with a huge congratulations, Bridget. That's a tremendous amount of hard work to be in that, and hopefully you guys. I'm not even sure I could put words to the size and the scope of that achievement. So huge congratulations to you and your team and stuff like that. Extremely proud of you. When you were like the board, I'm sure, when I saw your homeless numbers and was understated and stuff like that, it almost floored me. Just a couple of questions on that. Do you have any idea, just percentage wise, out of curiosity, of that percentage of the homeless population, how many their home district Granite Falls, like they're not out of district transfers?
So that's where I think our data with Lake gets a little skewed, to be honest, because the kids, but I don't know. I mean, the answer is I don't know, but the students tend to move back and forth. The students who are couch surfing may end up with they're a Lake kid and they may end up with an address in Granite, or a Granite kid may end up with an address because they've now moved in with like Brendan, like Stephen. So that I don't really know, but maybe Lacey's tracking that. I honestly can't answer you. But I could probably go get into the data and look at it, and it wouldn't take that long.
Yeah.
So if you want me to, I can, it probably only take like a half hour.
I'd be curious just to know, I mean, the other thing, and maybe I missed the beginning of your presentation, so maybe you talked about it, just overall, how much would you say of the student population at Crossroads is out of district transfers and how many are, or I guess when I say out of district, I mean, not Granite or Lake Stevens, Marysville, Arlington, something like that.
Well, I'll tell you.
Yes.
8%.
8%, okay. That's probably when I was,
I think that's 8 people.
yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry, 8 students, you're right.
8 students, okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So very small percentage, because I think there's kind of a misconception, and maybe this was true of Crossroads many years ago, but there's a misperception that the majority of the students that you serve aren't part of either Granite or the partnership, the co-op that we have with Lake Stevens. Obviously, the data shows that's not the case. The vast majority of students are Granite kids or Granite kids by proxy, so to speak. So I appreciate you clarifying that.
And some of those 8 may be McKinney kids that really, this should be their home district. So I'm really curious now to look at the data for your question.
Yeah. So I guess just diving into the homeless piece again, because I would imagine that impact to the building is huge, right? To be able to make sure that, a kid doesn't even know where they've got a consistent roof over their head, and then educate them and all that stuff. Is there any programs or additional funding or anything that we get to really like service those kids? Or is it all basically just you and Lori doing the grant thing, doing the best that you can? Robin Barth being amazing like she is. Like, is there anything extra that we get, like acknowledging, hey, this building has the highest homeless population in the entire state, they need specific things?
That would be the homeless liaison, works with OSPI to write grants for our homeless students. So
And that money can then be used directly to like clothe them, feed them, give them
that
credit.
depends on what they write in the grant and what they write the grant for. So, yeah, I'm just gonna stop.
Oh, I didn't know I was stumbling into something bad.
I think, yeah, we missed out on a opportunity, I think, 4 years ago. That's
Oh, yeah.
a while ago. But I am pleased to report that Beth has written the grant and has actually had a McKinney Vento event today. And just reporting on or learning how she can use that grant.
Okay, these weren't leading questions. Like I didn't know the road that I was wandering down. So, Marshall, you got some?
To add something about the homelessness, we do have, because of the homelessness, it also creates a disproportionate sped population based on the homelessness, and that allows us to apply for a thing called community impact. And we're asking for about $350,000 this year in community impact based on the disproportionate amount of sped that comes from homelessness.
Okay,
So the high needs students that we apply for, when the students meet the threshold of
Yeah.
and then community.
and that's part of safety net, right? When we apply for safety net, I'm very versed in these
It's
things.
why we have a high homeless population. It's not just Crossroads. We are higher than the state average in all of them.
And that's why I'm interested in that data, just out of curiosity. I mean, I would imagine the number being 8 students isn't that high, right? It probably assume that it's what you're saying, that it's all Granite or Lake kids, but I'd just be interested if you don't mind.
Dr. M said a while ago, he looked and there were only 3 on choice transfers. So my guess is those other 5 are showing up from other districts, but really they're McKinney.
I have to feel like throughout the term that's been used so much, at least in my line of work too, with the boom in AI as well. Is there any program that exists right now where we can put in metrics for our school? Because all these grants, all of these, college scholarships, for instance, are one of the hardest things to find if you actually qualify for them. And you don't know that a specific scholarship exists unless you divulge that your grandpa was a World War II vet and you have one leg. And now all of a sudden you get $1 million grant or something like that, like. Do we know of any, and we can just. Talk about this offline too, but if there's any program out there, seems like there should be something like that out there where you can just put in your school statistics information and then it would spit out all the grants and everything that you could go look after.
Seems like there should be an app.
There should be something, because I feel like so much time and effort on your side is like, well, let me just go see what's available. And you're probably spending hours and hours and hours trying to see, like, does there happen to be something that happens
There
to fit
might
within
be
this?
something like that, because like you said, there's the scholarship ones where you can put in all kinds, and then it'll just.
Right, there'll be
list and
huge-
lists of what
huge-
you could possibly
Yeah,
qualify.
huge questionnaires or something like that, but where it just learns more about you. And I feel like, data, I'm sure we have databases somewhere we could just dump that information and just see what sort of things are out there that are available to us.
There are services that you can subscribe to.
Exactly, just make
Yeah.
it easier to find the grants, right? They exist, they're out there, they're made for us to take advantage of, but if they're so difficult to locate, there has to be an easier way, so.
You're a tech guy, you write it.
Very time consuming to write when you don't get them.
Exactly, and all that information is there somewhere, it's just connecting it's all the red tape and administrative work, and I'd like to believe that it's not there to be a hindrance. And if that's truly the case, then there should be something out there that can make this process a heck of a lot easier, so. I don't know, I can start to dig into that as well.
One last question, and just as I was listening to you, Bridget, and I'm sure there's a reason for this, and I'm just don't know. I heard you say that the vast majority of students are on a CTE pathway, right? But I know that ALE doesn't get any CTE funding. So is it more advantageous financially for us to be an ALE rather than a traditional high school that then gets CTE funding?
So Marshall and I have looked at this pretty close. So I think that we're looking at next year having some of our classes ALE and some of them funded through basic ed for that reason. We can do it. It takes, we need to set it up. It takes some time to set it up and like just get the systems in place. And so I didn't find that out till the CTE conference, into the school year this last year. So Marshall and I have talked about it, we're looking at it, and I'm really hopeful that we'll be able to make that happen this next year. Just because of where we're at financially and, the money for supplies, then we can use that other OSSI money for maybe for.
Yeah.
So.
Last question on the CTE. So the new CTE programs that you're bringing on, are those, I guess, how do you select those programs? Is it from kids saying, hey, I would really be, like, this would really turn me on, like this subject, or how are you selecting, hey, these are going to be our new CTE offerings, just out of curiosity?
We went through, looking at, there's like several different websites that we can look at, that predict the amount of jobs that are gonna happen in Sonoma County. So that's really the majority of where we're putting in the programs, is we're looking at that and looking at where our kids work. So in order for them to get to qualify for worksite learning, their work, whatever they're working, has to connect to a CTE class that they're in. So, and we get extra, or don't get extra. ALE is funded for worksite learning. That is the one area of CTE that ALE gets CTE funding, and it's worksite learning. So
That's all I've got.
it's a little bit money driven,
Okay.
honestly.
So I just have a couple things. First, I'll start, congratulations on the home health care aid and the Snow Isle Star college credits, star credits, et cetera, because I know that's a lot of work. And I know there's a huge need in Snohomish County for that type of work. So congratulations on that. And I'd also like to point out, I noticed the difference on the numbers for science. So that tells me my brain's working. So yeah, anyway, that doesn't.
That before I leave.
But also 46% homeless population, like that feels so high. So whatever you find out that you're gonna tell Carl, will you tell the rest of us too? Because it feels like from 26 to 46, like 20% jump in 1 month.
No, it was a year and
Oh, I see.
typically our homeless population had been between 30 and 40%
I
prior to
see.
that year.
Okay.
And we had some issues
Uh-huh.
and now we're back on track and
And now we're back, but
And
still.
I didn't break it down to under unaccompanied, so like a percentage of those are unaccompanied youth.
Right.
Some of them are living at home with parents in the family's home, so that I can get that information.
Okay. I thought, I guess I was like, 1 month, like what happened? Was there like, I don't even know, maybe we have to ask the fire department what happened. Anyway, I guess I misunderstood. And then, yeah, again, with the math, I'm certain you're working on that. I mean, 7 to 10.3 to 39, I don't know, but I bet you're looking into it. So, yeah, but great and astounding work in the ELA, and that shouldn't be overshadowed. So we're doing the work, and I saw the cheering section, so yay. Thank you.
50% of our ELA teachers, so.
Nice. 50%. We'll
Doing
appreciate you carrying the,
Person to me.
And
that's right.
and our new superintendent looked it up, we are at 37% clients.
Oh,
Awesome.
I'm so glad it wasn't the 28.
all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Dr.
Yeah.
I wanted to comment on the math because I think a year from now and 2 years from now and 3 years from now, you're going to see a marked improvement. We made a K-12 adoption, which we hadn't done in years. And it's, much more focused. It's, again, going back to what's going on in the elementary and now in the middle school. Yes, you'll still have students that go to Crossroads that might be struggling, but their prior knowledge is going to be much more robust than it has been in the past. So I'll be excited to hear about that.
Any questions?
Thanks, Brady.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
If you guys don't want to hang out, you're welcome to leave. I know it's been a long day for you, but you're welcome to stay. I'm not telling you you have to. I'm giving you the space to leave. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
I'll go watch it.
I'll stay.
Okay.
All right. Next, our superintendent report by Dr. Middleton.
All right, so good evening, and just a few things I wanted to share, and this is a report that I've shared with our administrative team recently, and wanted to share some similar information, and a lot of it I've shared with you in our one-on-one meetings that we have each month, but I think it's important to also share with our public this evening. So the first thing I want to talk about, just under that large heading of best intentions, we recently had a lockdown at Crossroads, and I'm glad that Andy stayed and Bridget stayed because they have done really a great job with their security, and I've appreciated their hard work. We did have a chance to do some debriefing because when Crossroads locks down, then district office and middle school need to lock down. And so we want to replicate that event from a week ago Monday in May or June, once SBAC training is done, so that while internally at Crossroads things went seamlessly, there was certainly some work we can do in this building and at the middle school. And again, thanks to the Snohomish County Sheriff's Department, they were on the scene both here and at the student of concern that, and again, it was addressed. It was, it was a live event. And while there was no weapon here on campus. Threat was made off campus. And so the appropriate steps were taken. And again, the missteps we are addressing and again, want to replicate. Second point is happy Office Professionals Day and Admin Assistants Day, and appreciate all the work that our office professionals do. They keep people like me on track and on time, and so I great appreciation for all the work that they do. I've had meetings with all of you and the admin team, and Dana's been a part of that. And so that's some of the things I want to talk about tonight. But point number 4 is just that reminder that we wake up with the best intentions. And sometimes we need to remind ourselves that, there isn't, goals that are not aligned to what we need to do. There's not, I always like I laugh at it, at the absurdity of there's a slush fund somewhere or we print money and things like that. There isn't. I mean, we account for all of our money. It's audited every year, and we make decisions that are best for students and student learning. So we wake up with the best intentions, and so as I shared this with the admin team, we started with just sort of the state of the state and that concern of binding condition. And what is it? Well, it's basically a district that obviously their expenditures are much more than their revenue, and now they've dipped into their fund balance and below. They've gone negative. And we certainly have some neighbors. I think we have 5 right now in the state that are in binding condition. And what that basically means right now, there's no state remedy. And as I've shared with the staff, and we've talked about it in this room, no one's coming to save us. And so it's so important to work on having and maintaining a healthy fund balance. We have 5 right now, but it's anticipated that there'll be double digits of districts that are going into binding condition, which means right now the remedy is, go ahead and borrow against the future. That doesn't sound like a great idea. So yes, Granite Falls has been and continues to be on a watch list. And right now I think we're at number 28. And we go back to why it's so important to be careful. The requests that we get from the buildings, we recognize them, we appreciate the hard work, but again, we do not print money. And we are not going to be one of those districts that go into binding condition. Our legislative session was not of much help this year. MSOC is basically your maintenance and operations that goes toward utilities, and that line item, very, very small increase. We had hopes that the sped bill would be passed, that it would go from that 15% to 17.5, which would have made a big difference for us. And instead it went to 16. It's more money, but ultimately no cap is where we need to go. And transportation, of course, inflation has caused all sorts of issues with transportation. And again, a very minor contribution from the state on that. The other thing I shared with our team is the number of headlines to reassure them that this is not a Granite Falls issue. This is a state of Washington. And so just the different headlines from the Tri-City, Vancouver, Bellevue, Highland, and then we go to the next set, and I could have 3 or 4 pages of headlines, but I just limited to 2. Coopville, Evergreen, Lake Stevens, even on their website, they have a reduction plan. And Edmonds, Dana shared with us some of the things that are going on there with the $10 million shortfall. So it is not a Granite Falls issue, this is a state issue. The other thing that we talked about in our admin team meeting is when we visit with the public at a grocery line or in an elevator, we have to remember, we've got to stop using the language of, oh, the district, the superintendent, the business office, whoever is doing this to us. This is our district. We've got to own this, and we are the key communicators. And so when we talk about things in our grocery line, we're talking about inflation. The cost of business has gone up, but unlike businesses, we can't raise prices. That amount is fixed for this entire year and next year. Second point is there is definitely an inverse relationship between what the state expects and what they expect from us. So what they provide from us and what they expect. And special ed is a perfect example. Right now, I mean, as our special ed costs have gone up, it's a matter of, okay, what general fund program are we going to need to reduce a little bit to pay for special ed? Obviously, we have an obligation, moral, legal obligation to serve all of our students. And we want to do that for our special needs students. But it makes it very difficult. Increase in student needs, when we have students move in that we're not anticipating that have, again, medically fragile students, of course, we're going to meet that need. Staff shortages as we compete with our neighboring districts and they are able to offer a little bit more, that puts pressure on us. And enrollment, that's a funny one because it's both, we increase a little bit and there's some costs, we decline and there's some costs. And so it's just not a good space to be in right now, given our funding formula. So here's our state of the district. And in red are the two big items that we need to keep pounding the legislator on and our legislator team on: regionalization and the funding formula. And this is the most discouraging news, that we are not even having this conversation if we had been funded like Snohomish and their regionalization factor. What we have missed out on, if we were, is $9.5 million over the last 6 years. And I'm even saying, okay, let's not be Snohomish. Let's be Sultan, who is a sister to us, I think. Same demographic, same number of students, same housing value, 6 million over the last 6 years. You just think the position we would be in. So I've appreciated especially Director Carey, but the entire board for pounding the drum that this is such an unfair place that we've been put in. And honestly, I resent it. It's just madness. Inflation, of course, hurts us. And then when it comes to the ESD had done a study on our insurance and utilities and what we're funded for versus what our actual expenditures are. That's an $800,000 gap that we're dealing with. But it all comes down to number 4, the funding formula. And again, these are numbers that you've heard before. But again, for our public who are watching, we're funded for 3 paras with this funding formula, 0.5 nurse. And it goes on and on. I mean, and it does not meet the need of public education in 2024. This I know I shared with you before. Our beginning funding balance end of last fiscal year, beginning of last funding fiscal year, almost $500,000, which is certainly up from 5 years ago. Not up nearly as much as it should. We're going to end up at 3%. We certainly built a budget for 10%, knowing it would probably drop to 7 or 5, and then we see a lot of misses of unanticipated expenditures that came in. whether it's additional paras. Our nursing situation is so dependent on contracting with nurses, contracted nurses. I know Marshall had shared before that just our liability insurance went up 200,000. Transportation, of course, that's going to go up with inflation, other sped costs, and then the unforeseen, which, you know, when you have retirements, cash outs, people that go on even maternity leave, when all those leaves, that adds up. So you can see that all of that adds up to about 6%. We were hoping to get, you know, that 7, 8, 9%. And so that's where we ended up, or some of the things that related to getting to 3%. So as we've been talking with you and talking among the admin team, our goals, we don't want to go into binding condition. We're remaining solvent. We need to continue to grow our fund balance, and we are one of the few districts that are growing our fund balance. And we're managing our growth. So for example, we are moving our preschool over to this building. We're going to utilize the space over here. We could have gone for a couple of portables to address the growth at Monte Cristo, but that's easily $700,000, $800,000 as opposed to doing some, you know, taking down some temporary walls and reconfiguring this building. So it just made sense. Our target is to get to about 1.5 million in cuts, which would get us into that, you know, to start like 8, 9%, knowing that things happen. So I think we could be comfortable closer to a 5 or 6% fund balance, which is the rule of thumb in school finance. Get to 5%, and that's certainly what's being advised by our legal counsel to get to that 5%. Just $1 million of it is to salary, but of course this is a human endeavor. I mean, we pay our teachers and our staff to work with students. So of course that's where the majority is going to be. We're looking right sizing our classes again. We're evaluating our special ed in terms of our certified teachers this spring to see what we need for next year. We are required to hire a multi-language learner teacher. We've been using paras, and we need to hire someone for that, and the state has told us that. And so later tonight, and my last bullet point is suspending board policy 6022 for this fiscal year, because we're not going to meet that board policy, and board policy are to be followed. And so I'll be again talking about that a little bit later. So with that, I don't know if you have questions or whether you want to wait till we get to that point, but happy to.
I have a question. Rather than suspending 6022, can we just modify it and change the dates?
I'm sorry.
Can we just modify it and change the dates rather than suspending it?
You could.
I think that would be better advised than just wholly suspending it. And starting with those dates, obviously in conference with you and Marshall, and when you think those, Dana as well, and when you think those levels of fund balance are going to be attainable, and then just going through a first and second reading of it. But I mean, that's just me speaking. Obviously, it's not necessarily on the agenda, so we can talk more about it.
Board, other questions?
I was just gonna say, just to reiterate the point, I mean, there's so many aspects of the funding model. You know, you pointed out paras and nurses and this, that, and the other about, you know, the state funding. And I want it to be abundantly clear, and it'll be on a recording, that when the state says our district will be funded for half a nurse, Obviously, we know logically that doesn't mean half of a person will be here, but that means that for 4 hours a day, the state says that 5 buildings only need a nurse. For one nurse for 4 hours a day. That's the equivalent of saying each building has a 40-minute office hour, office 40 minutes, if you want to call it, for a nurse to travel to that building, do whatever they can for nursing for 40 minutes, and then travel for 8 minutes to the next building before they do another 40 minutes. That is what the state is saying our district needs, or that they will allow us to have, which anybody that has had any kids in school knows that is, it's an absurd model, and I don't know how that could ever have gotten approved at the state level, but that's just one use case from within there. The paras is another thing. 3 across, we can't even have 1 para per building per this model, right? And so when everybody wonders, when we have a levy come through, where does this money go? What does it do? We have about 9 or 10% of our general fund every year to spend on making this right? Taking that 0.5 up to hopefully 5, right? Hopefully we at least have 1 nurse per building. Hopefully all the students that require paraeducators are getting those services. That's where that money goes. And when we don't have that those levy dollars to make up that difference, it goes away really quick. Right. And so it's just, I want that to be abundantly clear. And if anybody has any questions, right, again, our emails are on the websites. I'm more than happy, even if you're not within my district, to chat with you through that, because this is not right. This is something that even when I'm at the WASDA conference, it is widely known across every single span of that conference that no schools are funded the way that they should be. And they're having to dip into, it'd be like asking you to put away 10% for retirement, but then immediately telling, well, you have to pull it out for groceries, right? It's a necessity, but yet they're painting it as, well, you have all this money left over and we're paying you for this. But I think nurse is such a clear indication of half of the hours of a nurse. A part-time nurse is what would be of value to the Granite Falls School District. Is just a preposterous assumption. So I just want that to be very clear to the public, everybody that's listening, hopefully listening, that that's what we're trying to deal with right now. So I digress.
I'll just say a couple of things real quick. I mean, I've had the unfortunate distinction of having similar conversations in the 10 or so years I've been on the board where we talk about cuts and stuff, but it's not lost on me that we're talking about people, right? We're talking about, unfortunately, mothers, fathers, people that work in the district that have committed, tons of years and blood, sweat, and tears to us, and the fact that we're at this point for whatever legitimate reason, as Director Ledoux was talking about, it breaks my heart. And I'm not going to make this about me because, I mean, these are real people. I guess I desperately want out of this cycle. And that's why we have to get more fiscally solvent, because I imagine a world where I don't have to continue to have to do this, where we can say, hey, we've got a 10% fund balance. Let's keep everybody in place and let's see how things go with enrollment next year, stuff like that. We unfortunately just don't have that luxury. And that is why me personally on this board, I am so strict about us getting to that solvent fiscal place, because we are, things aren't rosy right now. And I know that in our talks, we're trying to make us cuts as far away from the classroom as we possibly can, and do all the things, all the percolations that we can to really try to manage this as best as we can. And it could be worse. I mean, I will just say I was in a WASD meeting Friday and Saturday in Spokane, and I won't say the name of the district, but they're going to have to cut 20% of the district. 20%. It's a huge district, and they're looking at cutting approximately 20% of staff. how you do that, where you cut that from, like that boggles my mind. But it just goes to show what you said, nobody is coming to save us or anyone else, right? So it's just another reason why we have to get in a better financial place. And it's not great. I hate having these discussions, but we have to do what we have to do. So I guess I just wanted to throw that into the discussion. And to rest any parent who's watching, we're doing our best to make those cuts as far away from the classroom as we can. But it's the unfortunate reality of where we're at.
Guess it's my turn. So I haven't been in this chair for most of the last 6 months. So coming in and then seeing where we're at, like I've been blind for 6 months and I'm dropped back in. I sort of feel like I'm where I was about a year ago. And I remember sitting here on that day, and there are people who have said to me, I should have a thicker skin, right? But when I see staff reductions on the agenda, I feel it. I just do. So of course I'm looking at the budget. I'm looking at where we're at. I'm looking at the financial report, which is on the consent agenda this time, but it says that one of the things is that DD pre numbers grew by 5 more, I guess, this month in April, maybe, and are likely to continue to grow for the remainder of the year. But last I saw, the report that I saw said that we shouldn't be probably onboarding kids under the age of 5 or even in kindergarten for special education. So did something happen when I wasn't paying attention that has us on like bringing in kids that are the younger kids in special education and adding 5 a month and continuing to grow for the remainder of the year?
Well, I might get back to you on some of the specific numbers, but in general, I will say we still have an obligation through our child find, if there's someone that is special ed in who's in preschool, we do have that obligation to work with them. So there's no delay of.
No, I'm seriously, I'm just wondering, like we paid the money to have the audit of our process. We saw where some of our opportunities to do better were. I remember saying the words, do better. When you know better, do better. We need to do better. I remember that part. And so here we are, we paid for the audit, we took it in, we found our thing. And then the next thing I see is that we've onboarded 5 and we're likely to continue to grow for the remainder of the year. So is the identification different?
No, I don't think it, I mean, this is what I can share, is the WASDA consultants who came, they indicated it might get worse before it gets better. That was 1. And 2, we have live psychologists this year, as opposed to our remote psychologists. And I had an opportunity to sit with them, and I just wanted to know, are we over-identifying? And these are experienced psychologists from other districts who've now joined ours. And they said, no, we are not over-identifying. These are, and we're talking specifically about preschool. And no.
Okay. When I saw minus 1.8 million for the end of the year, and then I see the highlights or the lowlights. It's titled highlights, but it feels kind of low. But anyway, I just wondered, what did I miss on there? Yeah, okay, thank you. Any other questions? I guess I should ask anyway. All right, thank you.
Let me just add that school doesn't count in 100%. So we get funded for every preschooler that we serve. And secondly, we know what kids are coming in from our Birth and Free program. They obviously turn 3 as the course of the year goes. And by law, we have to have them in program by their 3rd birthday. So preschoolers, aren't the problem. in a sense, right? We're going to get funding and actually it's pretty lucrative funding. So we want to be serving them, and then we could find other kids as well, kids that are 3 or 4 or whatever. And so preschool, yes, the numbers will grow all year. We know which ones are coming from birth to grade, but then there's going to be under 75 as well. So those, they're helpful too.
Okay. Thank you.
And I think that there was a concern at the beginning of the year that we didn't get some evaluations and things done, and we missed out on some funding for preschoolers. So that is definitely a focal point for this. We want to evaluate them. We want to get them a program right away and start getting that funding.
Perfect, thank you. We are behind. Board reports. So WIAA.
Yeah, just to reiterate what Annika had mentioned, so district at the stadium, using that beautiful new track, new field, be comfortable under their feet as they're running around. And a beautiful place to hold it, so hopefully we have some good weather too to hold out as well, but no, excited to have that be the Parthenon for everybody to attend. Pretty much it.
Perfect. Ledge report.
Yeah, I'll make it quick. Like I said, I was in Spokane for a ledge committee meeting. I drove up late Thursday and was there till Saturday evening. And the goal of the meeting was the WASDA is preparing their position proposals for General Assembly that's coming up. And based upon those position proposals for this coming year, we'll set those proposals and we'll prioritize, and then WASDA has their kind of their advocacy that they're going to advocate at the state level us for. So pushing all of that aside, the interesting thing and the good thing, it's funny, Dr. M, your points aligned right with kind of what's kind of candidly called the alphabet soup. So that's WASDA, Washington State School Directors Association, WASA, Washington Association of Superintendents, School Administrators, and there's WASBO, there's the number of them, but they're basically all of the groups that are that advocate for the different functions in the educational system. We're all singing the same tune: SPED funding, MSOCs, transportation. Unfortunately, regionalization is not in there because regionalization is locked for 4 years, but that's another thing, you know, and kind of a subset of the prototypical model. So that's encouraging that all of these groups that all have their separate advocacy and and arms are all kind of going to be advocating to our legislators for the full for the same message. This is a big session, a full session where they are setting the budget and they are introducing new things. So there's always a certain amount of optimism that things will turn our way. The same kind of early optimism that SPED funding is going to magically change and all of the things. So if you can tell by my voice, I started this gig overly optimistic, and I think I've gotten more cynical as the years have gone on. So we'll see how that goes. But encouraging that, I guess, right out of the gate, it seems like, you know, everyone's going to kind of be advocating for the same things. So that's all I've got there.
Thank you. Community report.
I don't have anything today, so. I know.
Well, thank you for keeping it short
Yeah.
and sweet. All right, new business without.
Items from the floor, actually. Are there any items? No.
Sorry, I guess we don't have items from the floor. So new business 5A, resolution number 2324-04 on impact fees.
I'll have Marshall come up and talk about our impact fee
Come
resolution.
up, or I guess I'll come up.
Yeah.
So we are working with a firm in Everett to request impact fees from Snohomish County and the city of Granite Falls. We have reached a number of capacity that allows us to ask for that. So we created a baseline right now of our enrollment at each building, and going forward, we can start asking for impact fees. The resolution in the board packet is just the board authorizing Dr. Middleton to enter into an interlocal agreement with Snohomish County to collect impact fees. There'll be a about a 30-page report that the law firm will help us with, has helped us with. It's gonna be submitted to Snohomish County in its first draft form by April 30th. It's about 30 pages long. It has information about our current state of the district enrollment, has enrollment projections, it has cost for building, additions to building, buying land, doing portables, has all those different things, has some complications and computations and formulas that comes up with a number that says, well, each new house should contribute $25,000 to the Granite Falls School District to meet the growth needs. Well, then there's other things that reduce that number. So there's a piece where it says, well, the state should match $5,000 per house. So it reduces it by that. And then there's a factor that says, well, the state should, the city should, or the community should contribute this much in a bond. So it reduces it by another $5,000. And so you get down to about $13,000. And then each jurisdiction in our county, Snohomish County and each city has also negotiated with the builders a discount fee. That discount fee is right around 50%. So that $25,000 comes down to about $6,300 that we'll be able to collect starting January 1st on any house, freestanding house that is built in our school district, and about $3,200 for any condominium, townhouse, apartment complex that has 2 or more bedrooms. The data shows that a studio or a 1-bedroom apartment doesn't generate any students. We use the student generation rate of our 4 surrounding districts because of the building moratorium in Granite. We didn't want to use Granite because the data is not very good because of the building moratorium. So we were able to use the 4 surrounding districts and blend in their student generation rates for their houses to come up with this number. So we'll be, the first draft of that will be to the county by April 30th. They're almost done. I approved the first rough draft. The county will probably come back and say, hey, you make a couple of changes. We need to take that to the city of Granite Falls for them to do a resolution to get it into their fee structure, their sewer fees and all those things for builders. We need to take it to, well, it will be presented to Snohomish County Board of Directors for them to approve, and then it will be presented to you again for a resolution to adopt all of this into action, and we'll start collecting January 1st. We have to go back every 2 years and update the plan, and we can make changes to what we think the costs are, if costs have changed. From the day we start collecting fees, we have 10 years to spend that first dollar we collect, and it's kind of a rolling scale. So the next year we'll have 10 years to spend that dollar. And my understanding, based on what I've talked to from Pacifica Law and our surrounding districts, the amount of money that impact fees generates is enough to keep up if you wanted to add portables to meet growth needs, but it's about 15% of the cost for a new building. And so the expectation is that community funds part of that, grants fund part of that, city, state matching funds part of that, and that's how you get to the 100%.
Questions?
Any forecasts on what you think that amount will be for a year? Or
So I met with the city on Monday, and their moratorium is a hard moratorium where they're not even getting to a state where they're allowing pending bridge building permits where they can kind of get in a waiting line. They are withholding all permitting until their moratorium is lifted. They've got about 14 months left on their water treatment plan. So we will be able to capture all the city growth that happens. And that's Brent thought that was 400 to 500 units coming quickly after the moratorium is lifted. So we'll be able to capture all that. And then don't really have a projection of county growth. The stuff that's already been permitted, we can't capture. There's a lot of land out there that wants to be developed. So there's a tracking program on Snohomish County's website that allows you to track what each plot of land is designated for. So we'll be tracking that very closely. And hopefully, being able to come up with some good projections of annual revenue.
Okay.
When Lake Stevens did their last bond in Gulfport High School, they were able to contribute about, I think it was about $20 million in impact fee towards that project. And we're really fit that size.
Okay, I'll make a motion if you're ready. I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution number 2324-04 on impact fees.
A second.
The motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 2324-05, admin staff reduction.
Yeah, this is our reduction in force for our three assistant principals. These are three assistant principal positions that I asked to implement a few years ago. And they've made a tremendous difference, but we are in a financial situation where services furthest away is something we need to consider. This is a time-sensitive reduction. There are other reductions going on, but this one is required to come before the board at this time. And so I would ask that this resolution be passed.
Do the people affected on this list, or are they offered teaching roles in the district, or what's?
If there were something to come up, but they're not, there's no legal obligation to do that, but certainly if something came up, I would visit with them.
So what's your plan to provide, and obviously, like you said, this is heartbreaking on a number of levels. What's your plan to provide supports for these three buildings? Because, ATOSA can't evaluate ATOSA. I don't even know if we're gonna bring on ATOSA, but I guess how are we going to continue to help the leaders in the building evaluate, push educational requirements and deal with behaviors and all that stuff?
Right. Well, we've had those conversations within cabinet. Those will continue. We're looking forward to Emily Moore coming on board with lots of ideas. Dana, of course, has been up here. That will be presented at a future time, but
let me ask my question in a different way. If by approving this and the outcome of it, are we going to lose ground in continuing to push educational growth?
no, I don't think we have to. No.
Any other questions or discussion?
I make a motion that we approve resolution number 2324-05, admin staff reduction.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 2324-06 on land transfer.
I presented on this in February and went through the petition and the numbers that were involved. Those in Carpenter Ridge had certainly followed what the law allows for that transfer and presented to the ESD, which then activates the whole process. We sat down with Snohomish County, Snohomish School District, and told them that, my recommendation would be no to any sort of land transfer. That really doesn't make any sense to us. And so this resolution voting yes means we're rejecting the land transfer. So I would ask that we approve this resolution.
Just to say a couple things real quick, because I appreciate the board accepting my tardiness today, because I was actually at Snohomish because they had a work session on this. And I wanted to make sure to be in the room and again, to advocate for us. With all the discussion that we're having, all of the things that we're having to do, the thought of now also potentially losing tax revenue, students that if they chose to want to go to Granite Falls would need to choice transfer back in, all of that stuff is just, it really breaks my heart. And I know I sent the board my comments in my initial public comment to the Snohomish School District, but I thought I would just read it real quick, just into record, just so that the community can kind of hear and understand the seriousness of the matter, and why also I encourage us to strongly, unanimously approve the rejection of this land transfer. Here's what I spoke to Snohomish School District on public comment. Good evening. My name is Carl Carey, Vice Chair of the Granite Falls School District, and also one of your two WASDA DA #1 Legislative Committee representatives. Also want to introduce my Superintendent Josh Middleton, our incoming Superintendent Dana Geeslin. Tonight, I want to discuss the pending subdivision land transfer petition, a decision with significant financial implications for the Granite Falls community. $9,340,018.46. Granite Falls is a district of approximately 1,900 students. If Granite Falls received the same utilization factor as Snohomish School District since the 18-19 school year, we would have seen an additional $9,340,018.46 in state funding. Please recognize already a stark financial contrast exists between our districts, highlighted by the regionalization factor. This gap underscores the importance of every revenue source for maintaining our educational standards. The proposed transfer risks removing a critical piece of this financial puzzle, costing us about $250,000 in tax revenue annually. That loss represents a real threat to the resources and opportunities we can provide to our students. It also opens the door where Granite Falls now has to play defense against larger districts such as Lake Stevens, Marysville, and Arlington, who instead of respecting current boundaries decide to encourage and support similar positions. Our district would be open to poaching. Your district would be open to poaching. It is disheartening to note that amidst this pivotal decision, the voices of the affected residents remains unheard by our board. The absence of dialogue denies us the opportunity to address their concerns and underscores the need for transparent communication in such matters. I've always been a staunch advocate for parental choice in education. I will always be a staunch advocate for parental choice in education. That will not change. However, rejecting this petition doesn't alter that stance. Out of 25 students in the area, 8 attend Granite Falls, 7 attend Snohomish, and 10 have chosen alternate options. I'm here representing those 8 students who choose Granite Falls. These families deserve respect for their choices, whether it's Granite Falls, Snohomish, or elsewhere. Rejecting the petition doesn't impede parental choice. It safeguards our district's financial stability and our ability to serve all families effectively. A vote by the Snohomish School District Board of Directors to approve this land transfer simply further validates inequities in our system, where the haves can take from the have-nots. I implore you that you vote no on April 24th, 2024 into this land transfer, similar to Arlington's respectful vote regarding our district boundaries 2 years ago. It's a matter of ensuring equitable access to education for all of our region students and preserving the financial viability of the Granite Falls School District. So I spoke with the board tonight. Obviously, you can't vote in a work session. I'd be lying to you if I told you I knew which way they were going. I mean, I guess I'm cautiously optimistic that they will also reject the transfer, but I can guarantee you, just because I read rooms pretty well, that it's definitely not going to be a 5-0 vote if they do. And so basically what happens if they move it forward, as we all know, and we reject it, it'll go to the ESD, and the ESD will make the situation. And as a matter of fact, and I think you guys would all agree, I am not comfortable with another organization that is not, that doesn't have to answer to our community, isn't voted in by our community, doesn't have to sit here and make tough decisions about our community, making a decision that's going to have a huge financial implication for our district. So I'm trying my best to kill it, or to really advocate for it to die here as much as we can, because I guess I'm less optimistic about what will happen at the next step. So didn't want to take too much time. Certainly answer any questions if you guys have it.
Thank you.
Yeah. For me, it's just setting the precedent, right? It's also why I would implore acceptance of the rejection. Is just, we don't want to open up that can of worms of moving out for the sake of moving out, right? And we have growth coming, but we definitely retention is the first thing, right? We're trying to grow the district. We're trying to make it more successful. We're trying to, and to Director Carey's point, I mean, the financial implications immediately are there. I'm just more nervous about the long-term implications of opening up that precedent of readjusting the boundaries and where does that stop? So.
To your point, I guarantee you, if this goes through, even if it goes through to the ESD, this will be a constant discussion for us. There will be other communities who will get together that will do the same thing. Like this is going to be our new norm, is having these types of discussions, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So,
I'd just like to mention, just because I know that Dr. Middleton brought it up when we talked about this, I guess in February, this development is in District 4, it's in my district. It is not near, it's not super close to the edge of the boundary of the school district. It's quite a ways off. The boundary of the district is south of Carpenter Road, and it goes around to the edge of Lake Rosiger, right? I mean, we're firmly within this district. We're not on the edge. We're not kind of close. It's firmly within our district boundaries. And we do preserve the right for those families to choice transfer, right? Some have decided to do that, but to somehow adjust the entire boundary up into their neighborhood and then back, like carve that whole section out. Even on a map, and I wish I could put it up there, but I can't. But we have it attached to the agenda and the notes, and you'll see that it's not close, it's not good for Granite Falls, and we're not taking away the family's ability to choose education for their children. They can still ask for a choice transfer if they prefer to. So I also support rejecting. This is such a weird way to say it, but I support approving the rejection of the, yeah.
I just also want to add that we did a study, we had Lacey do a study, and every one of the schools that would be attended in Snohomish County are further away, or Snohomish School District are actually further away
Thank you.
than the schools that they would attend in Granite Falls.
Yep. Thank you. I did actually think about that when I was processing this. I would say 9 or 10 miles is like the closest school. I think Dr. Middleton and I talked about it as well. Like, I thought about where is the closest school? Because I know I follow school buses sometimes down Carpenter Road, right? I mean, you do not want to get behind that school bus because there's no pull off. It is 8 miles at like 20 miles an hour. So you know where the school is because you know where they're finally going to turn off. Anyway, yeah, it's not close at all. Like that would be an hour plus on a school bus to get there. So yeah, it's a long ride. Anyway, thank you for that.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the resolution number 23-2406, rejecting the land transfer.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, resolution 23-24-07, suspension of policy 6022 for 2023-24.
So Dr. M, just real quick on this, and I apologize for not talking to you about this earlier. Is it possible, rather than doing this resolution, to modify on a next agenda 6022 and the date, or is this the better way to do it just system-wide?
This was my thought is I'm here this year and I'm asking for this suspension. But I know that in the summer, you'll have a retreat. You'll have budget meetings with Dana and Marshall. And at that time, you might be thinking, okay, what's a realistic number to put in that policy? So that's the reason I thought maybe this is the way to go. Just instead of changing policy once, we're suspending it, and then your group.
And then modify it.
Yeah.
Okay, that seems fair. That seems fair. Marshall, are you hiding Any money over there? You want to tell me now that we're gonna hit our fund balance, for 6022? Now would be the time to do it.
Absolutely want to.
I'll make, if everyone's ready, I'll make a resolution that we approve and that was a motion. What did I say?
You were gonna make a resolution.
Oh, make a motion. Sorry. I had a aneurysm.
Oh, did you? Tell me more about that.
I make a motion that we approve resolution number 2324-07, suspension of policy 6022 for 2324.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. First reading to adopt policy 5009, remote work.
This is a policy that I know I visit with a number of you on, maybe it's time that we adopt something for remote work. You go to WASDA, they don't have a model policy. So I visit with Dana, and Edmonds had one, and then I reached out to Lake Stevens, and then finally to our attorney. And so we sort of took the key elements of both of those, and Olivia Hagel worked on that, and this is what she's presented. And I think there are a couple of key elements that are important. One is, when you're working directly with students, you need to be here. And then second, if you're not working directly with students, it's still good for culture to be here. Yes, there could be some circumstances, but that would all have to go through the superintendent. So I think it formalizes, the intention of what you're looking for.
Discussion. I just have the discussion, just the question. So for the administrators that work through the summer, would this be in effect for them as well, even though the students aren't in the building? The expectation is that you'll be at work in
Yes.
June and July, or you'll be taking PTO,
Yeah, Dana and I talked about that, and
June, July, August.
this would certainly give her that authority to, okay, tell me what your schedule is, and we'll work this out. So yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the first reading and adopt policy 5009, remote work. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, I missed the second.
Bill.
Bill, okay, thank you.
I was gonna make
I
a joke.
just realized Paris isn't here.
Just ran away.
Yeah.
She did have to leave. First reading to adopt policy 1111, oath of office.
You'll notice that the next four policies, they are WASDA policies. I think one is a new one, but the rest are some very minor changes. Some actually reduce paragraphs down to like 3 sentences. Others are a little bit expansive. So oath of office, it's just makes it a little bit more technical as to when you do it and who you turn that into. So.
Discussion.
Make motion, we approve the first.
I didn't say my name.
Oh.
I haven't been sworn in for my reelection.
And that's okay. We can do it
Just saying.
you're ready.
Okay. All right, now we can.
All right, I make a motion that we approve the first reading to adopt policy 1111, oath of office.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
First reading to adopt policy 1240, committees.
And this is the one that really streamlined. You can make a committee, just don't have more than 2 on that. So,
Like John.
That.
I know.
I make a motion that we accept the first reading to adopt policy 1240, committees.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, first reading to adopt policy 1450, board member absences. I feel like this one might be mine, but
All of these policies were created specifically
I know.
Yeah.
as an answer to the what I like to call the Veach problem.
Sorry that my inconvenient timing for my, anyway, yeah, Any other discussion?
There was really no substantive.
There is.
In there.
Yeah. Okay,
Make a motion to accept the first reading to adopt policy 1450 board member absences.
Second.
all in favor? Aye. All right, first reading to adopt policy 1810, annual governance goals and objectives.
This is a new policy, I know.
It is, and it's a good one.
Yeah.
I think this has some time sensitive goals for the board, and so this is a good one to approve.
Any discussion? I'm sorry, it's not my meeting.
No?
I make a motion to accept the first reading to adopt policy 1810, annual governance goals and objectives.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have no unfinished business and the consent agenda.
Make a motion that we accept the consent agenda with the additions provided. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Let's see how we'll do that quickly.
Yeah.
Sometime.
All right,
Adjourn.
we will adjourn at 7:45.
Only 10 minutes late.
Yeah.